I was born in 1988 and grew up in the 90s. While I was in 5th and 6th grade, Pokemon was one of my favorite TV shows. Now that I have kids of my own, I have loved going back and watching Pokemon Season 1 with them. In doing so, I've had an opportunity to watch it again with new eyes and see so much more than I have ever caught before. Let's start with Team Rocket. I've made a lot of references to them in my recent videos. They are two adults going around trying to steal from little kids. And it has always been peculiar to me how, despite being named Team Rocket, their primary mode of transportation is a hot air balloon. That sounds familiar. If you haven't looked into the connection between NASA rockets and balloons, it's worth checking out.
Like you watch this thing launch, it launches really slow, kind of like a balloon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes down range and they always have a tight shot of it, right? You never really see how fast it's going, right? So think about this. It goes back to the tank. When it discards the tank, the story is that the tank falls to Earth, and because it falls so fast, it burns up. Okay.
Okay.
So watch this. This is being filmed by the pilot, by one of the guys in the space shuttle that says, they're on their way into orbit, accelerating still, and this thing is falling. Where am I? I disappeared. This thing is falling back to Earth. Okay?
This thing is falling kind of slow.
This thing is, how is he filming it going up? This thing is falling back to Earth. 1,000 pounds, or is it an escaped Macy's Day Parade balloon? If I could talk.
That is wild. That
right?
Like it really brings into question right now, like what has the government been doing for the past 67 years? Yeah, that's floating.
It's floating.
It's
and
floating.
There's a video in the app called Rockets Are Balloons, and this thing's gonna burn up before it gets to those clouds. Those clouds aren't that far away.
No, they're not.
Right.
That's insane.
Yes.
But why hide this from the general public? Why?
NASA's budget for the year 2021 alone was reportedly $23.3 billion. And I want to point out how NASA is reported to be the #1 biggest consumer of helium in the entire world. And they consume so much of it that we hear reports about a crisis due to helium shortages. But let's go back and talk more about Pokemon. Team Rocket loves to build traps. And a very frequent trap that they use is the pitfall. A pitfall is where you dig a hole and cover it up to make it look like solid ground, so when someone walks onto it, they fall into the hole. This is a metaphor. An academic pitfall is something we see way too frequently in the public education system. We see these when a teacher or textbook makes a claim without any kind of observations to back it up, such as claiming the sun is 93 million miles away. And nowhere in the book does it state how they came to that conclusion, nor does it state any reason why we should believe them, except because they are the expert and they said so. They act like the claim is built on solid ground, but there's nothing there. It is nothing but an unsubstantiated "trust me bro" statement. And they want kids to fall for it. Something else Team Rocket continually does is deploy giant robots to help them steal things. This can be seen as an appeal to technology, or an appeal to complexity. Now let's talk about Pikachu. Team Rocket really wants to steal Ash's Pikachu. What does Pikachu represent? It isn't hard to tell that Pikachu represents power. So let's think about this further. Power to do what? How about the power to be independent? In the very beginning, as a 10-year-old boy, Ash set out to travel the world on his own, but wasn't very successful. And in fact, he could not do it. Not until Pikachu stepped up and was willing to help him. Pikachu's power is the power to fight. And I think it's interesting how in the show, people don't do the fighting. Instead, they send their Pokemon out to do the fighting for them. And the people tell them what to do and how to fight. So in this case, people are using words to fight. And what do we call a verbal fight? An argument. And take notice of how they put a light bulb on Pikachu's head here. This further re-emphasizes the point that Pikachu represents an idea, or the ability to think. So overall, Team Rocket wants to steal from kids their ideas, their abilities to argue and think for themselves, and their intellectual independence. That is exactly what happens when people are discouraged from questioning what their teacher or textbook says. But we don't have to take it. We don't have to fall for their traps. If we just learn to look for and recognize their unsubstantiated claims, their traps have no effect on us. And if we all stand up and call them out, we can run Team Rocket out of town. Awake and arise, America, and let's be done with them. We need some changes around here. And some changes in the corrupt government that gave them so much power. They need to take some major efforts to try and restore the people's trust. But they're not going to do that until enough people stand up and speak up. This message has been brought to you by the Flat Earth Institute of Science. Thank you for watching. And is it just me, or was Giovanni the Team Rocket boss made to resemble Wernher von Braun? That wouldn't surprise me in the least.